Oh my god, am I ready to push the button? Oh, it's the button pushing time. All right, everybody freaking out because it's Monday. I know everybody out there's freaking out because it's Monday. I know how it is. It's Monday, you know? You get up, you take a shower, you put on your pants one leg at a time. Just like the rest of us. We know how it is. You know how it is. Whew, woke up today, March 27th, 2023. And I tell you what, 'twas freezing cold outside. I don't know about you guys. 'Twas frozen. 'Twas frozen cold. The frostiferous coldness jumped out and tried to get all over my body. I wouldn't let it happen. Man, I tell you. It was a frosty one this morning, but the sun has come out and it is beautiful, shining sunbeams right in your eyeballs, right in your eyes, right when you think there won't be a sunbeam right in your eye. Boom! There it is. Kapow! You get blasted right in the eyes, so it's a perfect day to wear some shades and look super cool because your future's so bright. Let's see. March 27th, 2023 is day 3,240 of my sobriety journey. So right off at the beginning of the show here, we're going to throw in a little sobriety chat for those of you out there that may or may not be thinking, oh, that guy seems like he seems way more coherent than he did 9 years ago. Which may or may not be the thing that you were talking or thinking. It might have been the thing you were thinking. Maybe not. Maybe you were like thinking something completely different. Maybe you were thinking, oh man, I've been thinking about making a change. And I would always tell people, don't compare me to other people. Man, I got like a catch in my throat as soon as I started talking. Excuse me. Don't compare me to other people. If you're going like, hey, look at this success story of sobriety, blah, blah, blah. Just compare me to me. That's it. That's all I ever ask people is just to go like, hey, remember that guy a decade ago? That guy different now than a decade ago. Although I did run into somebody last year that I had not seen in about a decade, and they said, I don't understand. And I said, what? And they said, I don't understand. They're like, I haven't seen you in like 11 years. You look the same. Like, that's a creepy thing. And it's easy to convince those people that I actually am a vampire and I have been alive for much longer than they than they think is reasonable. But it's not true. It just is the fact that I'm sober living and whatnot has kept me from looking super grizzly old at the age of 42, coming up on the age of 45. Or no, 43. Yeah. And it was kind of interesting that I go like, oh, wow, that was your hot take. But over this last week, I've lost 3. I think I talked about one of them last week. Okay, let's say over the last 2 weeks. Let's just encompass the couple weeks. As I talked about one of them last week. And then there was another one that was sort of a superficial. I didn't really know them that well, but it was sad that they died. And then I come to find out on Tuesday when I'm driving home from work that another good friend of mine has passed away. They're not sure. Well, the people I talked to don't know why he died. They said, well, he just died in his sleep, which I'm sure is probably the information that they have. I'm sure it's probably related to extracurricular activities, right? But it was another death. A young man at the age of 52 Unbelievable. And then come to find out on Saturday, I believe, in the fish community, Felipe Oliveria, I don't know how to say his last name correctly, passed away from cancer at 47. And boy, howdy, there's a lot of it going around. So I always feel like this is a really good time to talk about being like, hey, man, I've been sober for 3,240 days. It has changed a lot of aspects of my life. You know, I can't tell people like, hey, don't get cancer, but I can tell people, hey, don't get liver disease. Hey, don't get a failing heart at 45. Hey, don't get a failing this because of stupid crap, right? Because of stupid crap that you could change. It's a change that you could make, and there's a lot of different groups out there that are free that you could go and, experience a change and figure out what to do. Because I know for a lot of people that end up getting sober, it's a bigger question of like, well, what do I do? Like, I don't know what do you mean? What do I do? I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a lot of people there that can tell you what to do, man. They can tell you what's up today. You could talk to them about your problems and things you got going on, and they could give you advice. You could go to Smart Recovery. You could go to the, what's the Satanic Church's one? I think the Satanic Church has one. That's all online, I think. Satanic Church Recovery. What's it called? Sober Faction. You could go to the Satanic Temple. Sober Faction is a peer group, a peer support group that offers satanic approach to recovery from addiction. So there's Alcoholics Anonymous that is not religious, although people freak out that they think it's religious. It's not. You could go to Sober Faction, which is satanic version, right? You could go to that. You could even go to Smart Recovery, which is an acronym, SMART, recovery. What does it stand for? I forget. Smart Recovery is the leading evidence-based addiction recovery program. Join a free meeting today and begin to experience a life beyond addiction. So there's 3 spots right there. If people are confused about what I was talking about, leave a comment. You could email me. You could get on the Discord. You could go on to Patreon. There's a million ways to get a hold of me if you feel like leaving a comment is too much or whatever. Feel free to reach out. I can send you some links and help you out with what's going on if that's something that you're interested in. It's a bummer. The deaths lately, it's a bit much. Can we just pump the brakes on it for a little bit? So yeah. Not only did the fish community lose a seriously important person, our non-fish communities have been losing serious people, and it's unfortunate. And I don't even know if it has anything to do with drugs or alcohol or any of that stuff. But you know, I'm not a doctor, so I can't say like, hey, here's a cancer treatment or something like that. But I am a sober person living a sober lifestyle, and so I can at least advise that. I can't tell you to go jogging and eat more kale. Even though I did eat a bunch of kale last week, I don't believe I went jogging. I didn't go jogging, so I can't give you that advice because I could be like, hey, man, you might be tired too, right? But I'm a lot less tired because I'm not drinking and doing drugs all the time. So, yeah, there is that. All right. If we're talking about YouTube stuff, you got to hit the like button. You got to hit the subscribe button. You got to become a member. We got to update our memberships. They're way down. Memberships have gone way down from 96 all the way down to the depths of 81 members. We're down to 81 members. Probably because gifted memberships expired. That would be my guess. That's probably the deal. Right, that's how that goes. We don't really have any viewers today, so I don't know how long I'm going to stream. I don't know how long I'm going to stream if there's only 10 people in here. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. It's hard to feel like, wow, we should keep streaming when there's only 10 people here. That's a little odd. Just being honest. Just being honest with you guys. It makes it quite difficult to be like, wow, let's stream to 10 people. It's awkward. where was the thing? I don't need this. I need the other. Click the other thing. This thing. We need the studio so that we can go in there and then we can go look at this button and double check and make sure we are down to, in fact, 81. Yes, that's true. But big shout out to Stephen Pope for re-upping their membership during not a live stream. So shout out to Stephen Pope, man. Thanks for supporting the channel for so long. Very much appreciate it. Yeah. Oh my God, we've got a topical comment in the chat here from Simon Buys. All right, we'll get to that in just a sec. So don't feel neglected. We're doing the business part right now. We got to talk about memberships because people should be a member. We have new people in our Discord today. Just Bob and maybe Nail Art have found the Discord. I've posted the Discord into the community tab. I moved it all the way to the top. So in case anybody becomes a member or a patron, you can join up to our Discord. And in fact, the green room is open in case anybody needs to call in today. Okay. The business is out of the way, right? The business is over. Okay. No more shilling for shekels. We don't want that. We don't want any shekels. Yeah, okay. Simon Bice says, hi. I was really amazed by your fish room build video. Any advice for someone who needs to renovate his house but doesn't have any experience? Well, this is the unfortunate advice I can give right at the beginning. And ain't nobody gonna like this advice. Ain't nobody gonna like this advice. Everyone gonna be mad because this is perceived as the world's worst advice, and that would be if you have zero experience and have no idea what you're doing or what's going on, you're probably going to have to hire a company. Yeah, right. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, you probably should hire a company to do the things that are either too laborious or too technical for you to do. Okay? I hire companies to do things. Like last week, there was a lot of clanging and banging up in my attic. We bought this house from a previous owner that covered up the old insulation and the fact that there were rats up there at one point in time. And so we had to get that remediated. Well, I'm 42 years old. I'm pretty physically fit. There's a lot of physical feats that I can do. I can run, I can jump, I can lift heavy things and move them around, and I can build fish rooms, and I can build walls, and I can pull wires, and I can do all this crap. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I can do. But when it comes down to scheduling, a one-man army, I don't have time to get all of that insulation out, get everything remediated, get all of the repairs done, get down all the descenting stuff. You got to spray all that descenting stuff. You have to make sure that that's cleaned up. Then you have to let all that stuff dry out overnight. You got to make any kind of repairs up there that need done, close off any holes, do any of that kind of stuff. Then you got to spray through the fire block holes and all this. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you got to do. A lot of stuff. It's going to take more than one guy one day to do it. And in fact, when the crew that we hired showed up, so the first day they were here, they showed up with 5 guys, 2 trucks, 2 vacuum dealy bobs. We had the vacuums going out the window. We had the guys getting those big bags filled with stuff. They're loading them into the truck. They're remediating. They're doing all this stuff. I ain't 5 guys. So if you think 5 super motivated, frankly, only 2 of them spoke English to give you, I'm not trying to be a jerk or whatever, but that's the kind of crew that's doing that, right? You know, people that are like extraordinarily motivated. Does that make sense? You guys know that I'm a pretty leftist guy, and you guys understand, like, I want workers' rights, and I want them to be paid well, and I want all that stuff, and it doesn't really matter what language they speak, but you understand the context of what I'm saying. They have 5 guys, a whole entire day all that equipment, all that stuff, all that cleanup, including going to the dump and all that stuff after the fact. The next day, 4 guys bringing insulation in, repairing things, doing stuff all day. Now, if you take that and you go 5 people, 4 people, 2 full days, 9, right? We can add 5 plus 4, 9 full days. If I'm going to do it by myself, that means I'm going to have 9 days of working day in and day out. Plus, there's going to be a bunch of like costs just from the fact that like we're going to have many days where it's freezing outside and the heat is on and all that kind of stuff. So I did check in on the work that they did. I went through and made sure that they were doing all the stuff that they were supposed to do, and they did. Everything has been verified by my eyeballs, right? So we did all that stuff. But the reason to tell you that whole long story there is to go like, I hire companies to do things that I can't do on my own. I focus on doing more technical work personally because that's where I save a lot of my money, right? I save a lot of money doing technical stuff that hiring people is not effective, right? For instance, running new electrical outlets, right? I can run all new electrical outlets. I can pull all the wire. I can do all that stuff. I can cut the holes, put in the new boxes, do the rough-in, get it all done, get it looked at, get the new outlet put in, get everything, get the final done. I can do all that stuff. I can save a lot of money because I'm not paying an electrician, between $1,200 and $1,500 a day to come out and do the work that I can do, right? So what you would want to do is do an analysis of your skill set as far as like saving money. Now, if you're going to be doing a remodel of, say, like your kitchen, somebody who has no skills can do the demo days, right? You can do all of the demolishing yourself. You can do all the dump runs yourself. You can do all that stuff that a company is going to charge you top dollar for them to do, right? You don't want to pay a guy $50 an hour to take old cabinets off the wall and throw them into a truck and then drive them over to the dump, right? So where somebody who has no skills, just pick up the no skills jobs, right? And you'll save money because you can go to the contractor and go like, oh, I'm going to do the site cleanup. I'll do the dump runs. I'll do this. I'll do that. Now, you have to be able to actually accomplish those tasks, right? If you don't accomplish those tasks, then that will be a problem. But somebody that's unskilled, you want to pick up the unskilled stuff and do it as much as you can to try to save money. Companies will be coming in for the important work, but want to learn as much as possible along the way. Is YouTube a good source to learn? Now, you got to be real careful if you're going to be looking at YouTube stuff. There are a lot of good sources out there. I'm not going to name any of them other than like This Old House with Bob Vila. They have like an endless catalog of YouTube videos. I have never seen them put out bad advice, mainly because there's just so many people working on those shows that they're really fact-checking and verifying and making sure, and they have experts, and they have guys for 50 years in their craft and stuff like that. Essential Craftsman is a great YouTube channel. Those are the two that I would say are probably really worthwhile to look at on YouTube. It's very difficult to say, yeah, just go onto YouTube and learn how to put your toilet in, because I've seen like endless hack videos of people just doing a very poor job of putting in a toilet and just sounding like, well, yeah, this is how you do it. Like, I'm a pro, look, I put a YouTube video up, right? So I don't know if YouTube's like a great place to start. If you're talking about like a specific project, you really want to look into all of the local codes before you get going. Make sure that, like, if you are watching a YouTube video, did they record this in Arkansas and you live in Colorado or something, the codes are probably going to be different per the area, and also the build style is going to be different for the area. So I live in the Pacific Northwest, for instance. If I was watching a video from how to do a sill plate on the exterior of your house, it's going to be significantly different in the Pacific Northwest. If I watch somebody from Florida going like, hey, here's how you put this on your house, I'd be like, oh, that's how I'm going to put that on my house. But like, that's how you put that on your house for Florida. It's a very different environment. The codes are completely different. There's no earthquakes, but there's hurricanes, right? So very different styles around the U.S., around the world, as a matter of fact, on how to do things and how to do them correctly. So if you were to like look up some YouTube content or something, you would want to make sure that it applies to the area that you live in, and then and just verify that that's like correct for where you're at, and that's probably going to be the best bet if that's what you're trying to do. Christoph Pajak said, hi, I found that mainly lack of the right tools is limiting factor for what can be DIY'd. That's true to a degree. It definitely is true to a degree that like proper tooling to do certain jobs is probably going to be an issue. But if you are, for instance, somebody that can like, hey, I've done a bunch of concrete sawing at work. It would be weird to have a big industrial concrete saw at home to do a 10-foot cut into a concrete slab to put a pipe down, for instance, right? It would be weird for you to own that if you didn't own that company. But there are many, many rental places where you can rent a lot of the bigger tools that you need to do most of the jobs. You can essentially build a house. You could build an entire house with essentially like a skill saw, a tape measure, like a big nice level, a hammer, a crowbar, and a couple other miscellaneous tools. I'm trying to think of any tool that like you would specifically need to build a house other than a skill saw. Probably not even, no, probably not. No, you wouldn't need a table saw. You wouldn't technically need a miter saw. You wouldn't need, yeah, no. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the tooling that people have is essentially for the production side of things, right? Like I have a really big miter saw, for instance. I have a big compound miter saw. It does all the dangles, all the cuts. But one of the big reasons for that is like, oh, I need to do 48 of these cuts on these little pieces at 42 degrees and 21 degrees angle, right? But I got to do a ton of these. Now, technically, you could do those with your skill saw, but you're probably going to run into a this took forever type situation. So it's things like that is really where like all the other tooling comes in. And then of course there's really big tools that, like I said, like a big giant concrete saw, but you can rent those for a day, you can rent those for a couple days, you can rent them for a week, whatever your plan is. And you know, the tooling shouldn't be the big encumbrance that you have. The big encumbrance that you generally will have is the knowledge and know-how of how to actually complete a project properly, right? That's going to be the biggest issue. That's the most valuable thing, and that's why somebody with a lot of knowledge and know-how gets paid more money than somebody who doesn't. For instance, the insulation guys, they probably weren't getting paid that much money, but I'm sure as they improve their skill set, stuff like that, and improve their knowledge of things, they're probably going to move up and eventually make more and more money. You know, this is kind of how life works. Oh my God, Skogs is here. Skogs Soggy Socks is up in the green room. He's calling in. What's up, buddy?
Oh, just hanging out, listening about projects and knowledge and things.
Just being weird.
Yeah.
All right. First things first, we got to get it out of the way. How's that baby brewing?
Oh, it's getting close.
Oh, it's getting bigger in there.
Yep, getting big. The dough is rising.
Oh, that is good. That is good. All right. No baby yet, but baby watch begins now. Okay. Simon Bice says, thank you very much for the advice. I can't wait to see the rest of the fish room build videos. Found your channel through the Real Fish Talk podcast. Excited to see more. Oh, it's weird how people find like my content through the Real Fish Talk. I don't understand. I guess people still watch that. I don't know. The episodes are old.
To be fair, though, they are loaded with very useful information.
No, that's true. I think I'll probably like once I have my studio done. I think Corey will. I think Corey will probably be the first guest. I'll probably have Corey come on, and then we'll just talk about World of Warcraft or something for 2 hours.
I don't play, but I'd listen to that.
I don't play World of Warcraft either, but we could just talk about it. I could talk about it from a space of what's that? What? A druid, you say? Ah. So how's your week going? You got Monday done in the bank?
Oof. Yeah, what a Monday it was. So far, it's not over yet, but it hasn't been too bad.
Did you have a case of the Mondays?
No, not particularly. I'm just working on a very large, heavy part, and today was like the manhandling day of it. So,
oh, moving around heavy stuff.
Yeah, it's not even easy with the crane.
That's how you know, like, your project is probably like a little overwhelming, right? You're like, this isn't even easy with a crane. Yeah, great.
It could be worse.
That's true. That's true. I do know some guys that got their crane stuck in a muddy field.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they had a 60-ton crane out there in the I think they were moving I don't know what they were moving. They were moving something for some barn project or something and got us stuck out in a muddy field. And apparently the crane work was only like an hour. But getting the crane unstuck involved many vehicles and a full, like, basically a straight 24 hours of trying to get it out of the mud.
Yeah, that does not sound fun at all.
It's hilarious from the outside looking in.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, no, mine's cemented to the floor inside the building, so I don't have to worry about mud at least.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently the crane op guy, he's allowed to take the crane home on the weekend to do side jobs. Which is apparently how it got out in the field and got stuck. And then they were like, wow, everyone's getting fired if we don't get that out of there.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So they had that hard deadline of like, man, if this thing's not out of here and cleaned up by Monday morning, won't look good.
Yeah, it's got to be back at the shop before the boss is.
Well, it's got to be on site.
Oh, man.
Before everyone else on site starts charging.
Right.
That's the fun thing. You know, back in the day when I used to do the street sweeping thing, it was pretty funny. We actually, some of the contracts we had were with these big rock quarries, right? I'm sure you're familiar with what a rock quarry is.
Oh, yeah.
Out here on the West Coast, a lot of the rock quarries are just doing crush rock stuff and concrete. Those are the two main focuses here, because you don't really get any of that like slab quarried stuff, stone, out here. So they're doing mostly crush rock, and then they're making concrete, right?
Ooh.
Now, as the street sweeper, our job was to go out there for these big rock quarries and clean up the highway out front. We had how many? I think we had like 7 accounts or something, 7 different locations we had to go to, and some of them you had to be there 3 times a day.
Wow.
Like once in the morning, once at lunch, and then once in the afternoon at some point, right? Which that one was across the street from Microsoft, like the Microsoft campus. I'm sure Microsoft was like, this is a requirement so we don't get rock dings in our Lexuses and McLarens and stuff. And so we had to be out there all the time. And it was funny because like one of the guys from the concrete company called, and he was all pissed because we hadn't filed. So what would happen is you'd go do the sweep, and then you would call in on the radio and let our dispatcher know, and then they would send a fax. I don't know if you guys remember faxes, but they would send a fax to the DOT that said we ran this sweep at like 9:25 a.m. or something, right? And we had like a weird day that like it didn't get called in, and the guy called and he was all pissed, and because apparently they would get charged like $1,000 an hour that it wasn't done, right? And so you're like, oh, yeah, I always thought it was kind of expensive that we'd have to go out and do like I think it was like $235 to do like a 10-minute sweep, right? But they were getting charged $1,000 if they didn't have us do the sweep. So it did make sense after that once I realized like, oh, just how much you're getting charged for being delinquent on your nonsense.
Yeah. When I was working overhauling the jet engines and stuff, they were just industrial for like making power and pumping oil, that kind of stuff. One of our customers was National Grid, and they would get smacked with these ridiculous fines if they didn't have their spare unit on site just in case, especially during the summer months, like down south and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember more than a couple of times them coming in and being like, we need you guys to work all the hours, all of them, because we got to get this out. Otherwise, they're going to get fined, and then we lose money. And yeah, those little fines are weird, but they're big too.
Yep. Yeah, we were doing Interstate 5. I don't know if you ever heard of Interstate 5. It goes from Mexico to Canada.
Yep, the old I-5.
The old I-5. It's a big one. We were doing a project on I-5, and the company that was doing the project, they had to get I-5 back open, or they would get charged $75,000 an hour.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like, I think at some point, some company must have just been like, yeah, all right, we'll take the fine. We're not worried about it, whatever. Until it escalated to an outrageous number, right?
Right.
Yeah, which was super funny.
Wow.
Well, yeah, because one night they had the asphalt machine stuck. It was like, I don't know, something broke on it. It wasn't my thing. There was just a lot of yelling and people throwing stuff around, kind of deal.
Naturally.
And it got stuck, and then, so what they had us do is they had us go clean where the asphalt truck, or where the asphalt layer had gotten stuck, and then they eventually like lifted it up and got it out of there. I don't know what was wrong with it, but they had to like pick it up and like drag it out, right? And so they got it out of there. It was like super late. And then they had us go and like clean up the asphalt that was out there. And it was like, dude, I can't do this with my truck. Like, this will ruin my truck. Like, I don't, like, you want me to like just sweep up tar and asphalt? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you have to scoop this out of here and put dirt on it, and then I can sweep it.
Right.
Because I can sweep the dirt off of it. And the guy was like losing his mind because he did not care how much the truck cost. His whole thing is like he would just buy the company a new truck. He just needs it out of there. I'm like,
right. Yeah. I'm sure the truck was cheaper than the fine.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not risking that, dude. Like, what You better like get a suitcase of cash or something, man. I don't trust a check from you, kind of situation. Like I'm not putting my truck in there though. And the reason behind that is I was the guy that would have to repair the truck, so I knew how that was gonna go. It's like, oh, I'm signing myself up for a disastrous amount of work. I don't want that.
Right.
All right. Well, it is Monday, so we might as well talk about our topic of the week, right? Which is your aquarium healthy? My reason for posting this as a topic today was inspired by the fact that I have noticed over my many years, being around fish stores, being at fish stores, temporarily working at some fish stores and helping people and stuff like that. And over the years, helping people over the internet with their aquariums, I've noticed a continuous thread of people that have said something is wrong with their aquarium, and the question is almost invariably like, my fish are sick. What do I do? My plants aren't growing. What do I do? My this isn't blah, blah, blah. What do I do? And it's like, I don't know the answer if I don't have some kind of information as to what's wrong, right? And I've noticed just how many people come into Petco, they come into PetSmart, they come into the co-op, they come into stores they used to work at with a little vial of water, and they want the people at the store to test their water for them and tell them what's wrong. Now, I find this to be sort of useful in the fact that, like, it is a customer service thing that you go, like, as a customer service piece of a store, you say, hey, bring some water in, we'll test you, we'll let you know what the tests are. It's a nice customer service thing to do, but I don't know I don't know how that's verifying for people whether or not their aquarium is healthy, because if you bring in your water and I test it and I go like, yeah, it's good, I don't even know what's in your aquarium. I don't know what your setup is. I don't know what your filtration is. Are you growing plants? Do you have lights? Do you have a CO2? Do you have a UV sterilizer? Do you have this? There's just an endless amount of possibilities that could be going on with your aquarium, and I'm really wondering how, generally speaking, people are verifying whether or not their aquarium is healthy or not. And I was wondering if we'd get some information from the community, but I don't even think we have enough viewers here today, honestly. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know that we have enough viewership here today to even get some people of like, well, here's how I go with verifying whether my aquarium is healthy. So I don't know. Skogs, how do you go about checking on your aquarium personally?
Well, obviously starts with the natural look it over. Are all the fish swimming right? Are there any spots on them, whether it be ick or fungus or velvet or torn fins or sunken bellies, stuff like that. And then you give it the quick check with the little drops in the vials and shake them up and look at the colors. Okay, everything's looking good. Or maybe it's not, and you got to do like a water change, and then usually like during the water change, if the chemical tests aren't looking good, you kind of look for the cause. Is there a dead fish somewhere? Is there a rotting plant somewhere? Do you have a piece of driftwood in there that might be old and mushy by now? Kind of some things to like check for and keep in the back of the mind. And then, you find some of those things, take them out, and then just kind of check it the next few days. Maybe not every single day unless it's a really bad problem. If you're getting like a lot of die off. I don't know. I kind of check mine like every other day, every third day. If I see something that's kind of problematic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, it's usually the once over visually, tested by the chemicals, check the filters and, make sure the lights are right. Um, especially with planted aquariums, something you got to look out for is keeping the tops clean. That's kind of that. But this is like a big topic. Like you said, working in the store, people come in with the little thing and, oh, my fish are swimming sideways. Like, can you tell me what's wrong by testing my water? It's like, no. I can give you things to look for, but that's about it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Is that like everything starts with the initial visual inspection to obviously see if like, hey, I got green water. Hey, I've got this algae. Hey, oh, I've got ick. I've got things going on in my aquarium that you can visually identify that is going on. It's pretty obvious when something is visually off, right? When your fish have velvet, for instance, it's kind of obvious,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And that you do have like visual cues of things that are going on. It's really a question of like that I first off have of like, okay, have you visually seen a change of behavior, of like plant growth or coral growth? Have your corals all bleached white? Well, you got a problem, right? And so I always kind of wonder. I always kind of wonder how people are doing it because I see just with the frequency of people bringing in a water sample and just go like, "Hey, tell me what's wrong. I want to add a thing." And I always feel like it requires a lot of investigation on behalf of like people that just work at a store, to try and figure out like what somebody's personal like pet care regimen is. So I almost kind of wonder, like, how do people verify if their aquarium is healthy or not? And then, generally speaking, whenever I talk to somebody with a lot of experience, they're like, "Oh, I'm just keeping an eye out," and then I just sort of follow my my care regimen, and things seem to work out. And you kind of go like, "Oh yeah, because nature's generally taking care of things if you're taking care of things," right? Yeah, are the fish acting normal and eating well? Is the tank clean visually? Are the plants actually growing strong? And yeah, and it's one of those things that like with a planted aquarium, you always have sort of the variability of like, are my plants doing what I want them to do? And whether or not it actually is going to be healthy for your plants or not is also kind of like a weird, I guess like sort of esoteric sort of question of like, well, are they growing? Are they growing beautifully? Right? Because the beauty aspect is generally like what we're all going for. Like obviously we find healthy plants to be more beautiful than unhealthy plants. But when we're going for an aesthetic, and then like whether or not we're motivated by the aesthetic or the actual like health of the aquarium is in my opinion sort of like two different things, right?
Yeah,
Alyssa's here.
Oh, that's what that boop was.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm like, oh, this is a question that I deal with every single day from people.
Oh,
it gets tough sometimes.
It's really interesting trying to it's like going in every single day. It's like, oh, okay, my fish are all gasping at the surface. What's wrong? And and I want to just be like, do a water change right now. Just why are you here? Change your water.
Right.
But they'll bring me, a water sample and I'll do the water test, And usually when they're up at the surface, I'm like, okay, I know that this is going to be kind of bad. But oftentimes you will see something like, okay, you're at like 4 parts per million ammonia, and I'm actually kind of surprised your fish are alive. And then they'll say something like, well, what are we supposed to do? And I'll say, you should do a water change. And they'll be like, well, we just did one yesterday. I'm like, cool, do another one. And they'll be like, but do we just need a bigger filter? And I'll say, okay, remember when you were here the other day and you said you had a 29-gallon aquarium and you wanted to know how many goldfish you should put in the aquarium, and I told you one, and you demanded that I give you six, and you took six home, and and now they're all at the surface and they're gasping, and you've got 4 parts per million ammonia. And they're like, well, yeah. And I say, okay, so you're going to need to do like 50% water change every single day for these fish in order for them to survive, and or get them a much bigger tank.
It's a real thing. Like I've flat out refused before, like people kind of in that same or similar situation, even like, yeah, I want these 8 goldfish for my 40-gallon breeder. I'm like, well, I'll give you 2. I'm not giving you any more than 2 because they're going to be unhappy. They're going to get really sick. You're going to be having problems, spending all kinds of money potentially, trying to chase the issue. And
Right.
I'm not going to put those fish in that situation.
Right.
Sure, we have 15 of them in the 65, but they get daily water changes and, stuff like that.
And we barely feed them at the store. We're not feeding them as much as you're going to feed them at home.
Right. Right. Especially if there's a toddler present.
Right. Yeah. And it's like a family of 6 or whatever, and a bunch of them are kids. And yeah, it's like, I'm not saying only get 1 or 2 because I'm trying to be the big, bad, mean lady.
Right.
I'm trying to save you guys from having to do daily large amounts of work to keep your fish healthy.
Right.
But yeah, it's very interesting. Like people will come up to me and say, I have a bunch of algae in my tank. What should I do? And I'll be like, okay, cool. What does the algae look like? Because I've learned by now that you can't say what kind of algae do you have, because they don't know the answer. Because if they knew that, then they could just Google it.
Yep.
So, or let's see, my tank is really cloudy. What do I do? Or my fish have these little white spots on them all over the place. What do I do? And yeah, you can do the water test for it, but that's not usually the whole situation. Or like, why do my fish keep getting sick? And so then you just kind of go through the list of things that might be going on with their tank. What fish are in your tank? How many of each kind of fish are in your tank? You have a big community tank with a million different kinds of fish. Okay, that's probably part of the problem. You have no plants or any sort of decor. You took out the decor because you were tired of your fish hiding. All right, that's another part of the problem. Your fish are stressed out and that's causing them to get sick. Okay, there's no heater in the tank and all the fish that you have are tropical, and that's part of why they're sick. It's just like one thing after another, like, oh, you run the storm setting on your Phoenix, whatever, every day for about 3 hours. And of course, they're going to be stressed out by that as well. It's things you have to go through step by step. What is happening in the tank, and then just sort of diagnose it. It's a interesting investigation, I guess. Just like question and answer. I usually tell them, okay, cool. Now I'm going to ask you a whole lot of questions. So they'll be like, oh, okay. They're usually really surprised.
Well, yeah. Yeah, trying to figure out, like, what's going on with somebody's tank is like you're not even there,
Right. Like, did you bring a picture of it? No.
The
Okay.
The pictures are sometimes the worst part of the whole deal, though, because they're like blurry, or it's just one little corner of the tank and you can't see the whole thing, or it's just
Right.
one specific fish that's not even the sick one.
Yes, that's very true as well. I've had it before where somebody really liked crystals, and so they were putting like random pretty crystals or whatever in their tank. Um, and there are things that you should not put in your tank because it will kill your fish.
Most of them are found in crystals.
Yes, and yeah, a heck of a lot of them are found in crystals. And so I was like, okay. Once I finally got her to give me a picture of the tank, and then I saw all those crystals, and I said, okay, take the crystals out. Just take all those crystals out. Do a huge water change. Run carbon in your tank.
Or when they go out and get the ever classic, I just collected a bunch of rocks down by the river, and from this random rock quarry I drove by 3 states away, and I threw them in my tank, and all my fish died. What's happening? It's like, well, there's something in the rocks, man.
Yeah.
Well, they should have been fine. They were down by some water.
Oh,
Right.
True.
That's
How could I be so naive?
Gosh, geez, Gogs.
That's hilarious.
But I mean, and it's one of those things that people, they don't realize that it's a whole additional learning curve, like a second thing to learn about. It's like going back to school all over again.
Yeah. So, something I would tell people too that would come in regularly with problems but would actually take the advice, because a lot of people end up not taking the advice and keep coming back with the same questions.
Yeah.
But the ones that would actually take the advice and, like learn something from it,
Mm-hmm.
I would tell them, there's a lot of really great information on YouTube. You kind of got to sift through a lot of it and, watch a lot of videos, but pick all the things that are the same out of them, because that's your real, true, good information. Most of those people would come back, maybe I wouldn't see them for 4 or 5 months after that, but they would come back and say, I went on, I watched a whole bunch of videos, and you're right, there was a lot of great information, and I learned so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of them don't like doing that research on their own. They just go find somebody with the information.
That's true. And it's good to be able to find somebody with the information, but it's also like, who do you trust,
Right.
Like, a lot of people seem to trust me, except for like a couple of folks. And I'm not sure why that is. Why people would trust what I say at my work, but I think that sometimes people will go and they'll get their information from some source online that is extremely questionable.
Oh, for sure.
And or from certain YouTubers that I know, well, I don't know personally or anything, but like that I am familiar with, and I question the validity of them, and I'm like, okay, well, I hope it works out for you, whatever it is you're planning to do.
Whatever that
with your
plan may
dirted
be.
tank. Yeah, with your dirted tank that's not the Wallstead method or whatever.
Well, I think like the bigger issue is like I don't think people are very very interested in what I would consider to be like active research, right? Where you're actually going through, most written periodicals and, actual research papers and stuff like that. Most people don't want to do that. Most people just want the answer because they don't have time, right? It's like, I don't have time.
Well, to be fair, an awful lot of those actual peer-reviewed science papers are behind a paywall.
Well, that's when you got to get good at hacking, bro.
Or you find out who wrote the paper and just email them.
Yeah.
99% of the time, they will more than happily give you that paper because, that's their research somebody wants to read.
Yep.
Right.
And anybody that puts it behind a paywall, they're, A, they're scumbags, and B, the publisher's never seeing a dime of that money.
Right. It's very true. But again, that's another thing that folks in general don't know about. They don't know to look for that.
That's true.
Oh, Carson has a good question. What equipment do you use for testing? What do you guys use?
At my store, we use the API master test.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I use the API test at home. We use it at the store. And also because I have the reef tank, I use I think it's the Red Sea tests. Those are really great, super accurate, a little bit more work involved with them. And at the store, we will also use them if they ask for it, but we do charge a small fee for those because they are so much more expensive. But the API tests are free.
I think the Red Sea ones are used by the saltwater guys, but I don't do the saltwater stuff. People ask me saltwater questions, and I'm like, aha, you see that guy over there who's working on the saltwater tanks specifically? You should ask him because he knows the saltwater stuff. Me, I know a few things.
Strip or drops? Definitely the drops. The strips are okay for like nitrite sometimes and copper occasionally.
Yeah.
I just find them to be like incredibly inaccurate.
Yeah, we just use the drops at work.
Yep. Yeah, even those aren't like crazy accurate, especially once you get down to those last few tests in the bottle. They become like pretty inaccurate. But they're much, much better than the strips. We don't even sell the strips.
I think we do sell the strips just because there is a demand for them, and because oftentimes our customers can't be bothered to do the whole drop situation. But whatever. The customer is right in as far as what they are willing to purchase.
Right.
Yeah, well, obviously, I think it really boils down to like what people are willing to purchase, and actually use. I think that's like the big advantage of the test strips is like, are you actually going to use them versus, people having liquid test kits, like maybe they don't even bother because they don't like to for whatever reason. So I think that's the advantage to the test strips is like it's better to do that versus nothing. Right?
Yeah.
Like and kind of have an idea of what's happening. I don't personally use the test strips just because like I don't. I just feel like it's extra money spent. For me, like I'd be just spending money on another thing that I would already generally be doing with liquid kits. And I don't want to I'm not name dropping here, but I've definitely talked to like experts and been around some people's that it's their livelihood to know what's going on with the water. And I don't see them ever using test strips, right? They're all using liquid kits. And I'm kind of like, well, if all the people like depending on their livelihood are using the liquid kits, I think it's probably for a reason. So I just am like, okay, well, I'm just going to stick with that. You know, and it's like pool maintenance guys. Like pool maintenance guys have test strips that they can like dunk in. Like they have test strips that they can use, but they don't rely on them. I've never really known those guys to like rely on them, and you kind of go like, well, this is to keep people safe, right? Like people that could sue you out of business or whatever, right? Like if you're gonna get you could get in some legal trouble, right?
True.
I've never seen a lawsuit brought up by a fish, so that's why I say that. And they have like test strips to like dunk in and see if like this chemical's too high or this chemical's too low or whatever. But then from there, they would always use the liquid kits. So I'm kind of like, well, and I've known like hydroponics, aquaponics guys, and they all used liquid kits. Although some of them do have like test strips for a quick see what's going on kind of thing. Like I think the test strips are good for that. Like if you're just, well, let me check. Let me see if there's ammonia real quick. No, okay, it's probably fine. And I'll just keep going with what I'm doing. But if you really are trying to like dial in and figure out like what's actually wrong, if there is something wrong, or maybe there's nothing wrong, I don't know. But I feel like just leaning on the liquid test kits is probably a better, mode as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Yeah, and my ancient master test kit has expired at this point.
Oh, John says I have a hard time using the test strips or liquid being colorblind. Oh, you know what? I hadn't considered the colorblind situation. It says the only thing I have found that works for me to use is the digital Hana testers, which actually kind of makes sense. I hadn't to be honest with you, I hadn't considered the colorblind. Very sorry about that, but it just hadn't occurred to me. I wonder if Amazon has anything on here. Oh, they do. Like, Amazon has a whole bunch of them on here. So I guess you could just go on Amazon to find some of these. Like, if you were really looking to find some stuff. Obviously, you have to kind of spend money though. That's the downside here.
Right.
Yeah, you even have like the digital ammonia checker, like this guy right here. Although it is fairly expensive, and I'm not sure what the regen, if there is regen with this or not. I don't know if it needs a regen chemical. I would have to check. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I'll look into it for sure. If anybody's wondering what we're talking about, here's an Amazon link, but I got to do the Federal Trade Commission thing and tell you that we are an Amazon affiliate. If you go through the link and buy a bunch of for instance, welding equipment, which was this month, we'll get a commission. So it's a commission link. You don't have to click on it, but if you do, it goes over there. So, yeah, they are a little bit spendy. They're a little bit expensive, but I hadn't realized that the color blindness would be that much of an issue. And yeah, I don't know how you would make up for that financially. I don't know how you would do that, but yeah. What do you do when everything is fine? Test is good, but clearly is not a healthy tank. Example, for me, I check the filters and pumps. Yeah, I think that would be my first step, is like, if you test everything and everything seems like it's going well, but obviously you have signs of something unhealthy going on, like periodic maintenance is the first answer. And it almost always is the answer for anything. Generally speaking, like anything that's going wrong, like Alyssa was talking about earlier, is that, yeah, do a water change. Like, it's time to do a water change and make sure the water you're changing with is clean. It almost is always the go-to of something that's going on. It's like, is there too much ammonia? Do a water change. Is there too much? Oh God, I'm drawing a blank. But if there's too much of anything going on, it's almost always a water change. Is almost always the answer. It's like, time for a water change. Maybe it's time to clean those filters, figure out what's going on. Mold buildup in planet aquariums while often is not an extraordinary problem, it's the one weird problem that I've seen people run into that are like, well, it's a 3-year-old planted tank. The plants are doing great. Everything's going on. My fish aren't doing too well. And it's like, it might just be fairly gunked up in there. You know what I mean? Like, it might be time to just like get some of the excess waste out of there and stuff like that. It might be time to do that, because I almost always, with my planted aquariums, I don't like gravel vac or anything like that. Somebody was asking earlier, Nabokov fan was asking, in terms of maintenance, do you guys use different siphon, or how do you handle contamination? I don't use a different siphon, mainly because my fish room is my fish room. I'm not that worried about cross-contaminating a couple of tanks. I let my nets dry out. Typically that will handle most things, and most things that don't handle sort of not cross-contaminating, it's going to take some pretty extreme chemicals or whatnot. But the easy way to avoid that is just get some boiling water. Don't boil your nets, but get some boiling water. Make sure it's over 185 degrees. So it's not like actively boiling, and you can drop the nets in there. Actually, I learned that at Aquarium Glazer when I was there. They have thousands and thousands of tanks with all sorts of imports, exports, all sorts of stuff coming in all the time. And that's how they sterilize their tanks. They basically, or their nets and stuff. That's something that anybody could do at their house, is you can make hot water, right? Like, make some hot water, put your net in there. I think it needs to be in there for like 5 minutes, basically. But as long as you're over that 180 degrees, there's pretty much anything that survives over 180 degrees, there really isn't a chemical that is healthy for you to have around. And you could even bleach your nets if you want. You can dump them into bleach water, but then you do have to like dry them and rinse them off, just to make sure you don't have any residue on there. Although chlorine does evaporate, so generally speaking, if you've dried it out, it's gonna be fine. But I just rinse it off in the tap water, anyhow. But those are like the really easy way to avoid the cross contamination and stuff. As far as owning like a bunch of different siphons, I really don't know. I really don't know anybody that personally does that. Alyssa, you know anybody that does that?
I hear rumors of people doing that, but
Okay.
that's more like if you have 2 tanks.
Right, like if you only had 2, you're like, oh, I got a siphon here and a siphon there.
Like, technically, when I had a really bad cyanobacteria outbreak in one of my tanks, I had one siphon specifically just for that tank, and I would not use it anywhere else.
Okay.
So there was that.
Well, yeah,
But
you could just
now-
imagine, like, if you had 20 tanks and you had to buy, like, 20 different pythons, right?
Right. Oh, my God.
How much are those things, like $50 or something?
I think they're 65 now.
How much is a python? Let's find it on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Python.
Maybe you can get a bulk discount.
Yeah, maybe.
Amazon starts sending you the you must be a store discount links.
Oh, my God, they're $90.
Oh, shoot.
90. Are you looking at the 50-foot ones?
Yeah, it's a 50-foot one's $90. There's some knockoff brands that are cheaper. There must be like a shorter one. I think I personally would probably just buy the 50-foot one and then just cut the hose shorter.
I have a 25-foot one. Yeah, and you can get second like attachments and extra ends and stuff. So it's
Here you go. The 25-footer is $54.99. But either way, if you had 20 tanks, that's like $1,000 worth of pythons. That's buck wild.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
But I
my
mean,
God.
think
We
about
better
it,
post it in
too.
the chat so the Federal Trade Commission will know about our income links, right? Okay, or I posted it in the chat in case anybody needs to know what a python is. What we're talking about, it's not a snake. It's a water changer. Water change, cleaning your tank. It's for cleaning your fish tank.
But if you think about it, like if you have 20 fish tanks and you have to like unscrew and rescrew a different python to each one to do the water change on it from the tap, oh my God. Um, I feel like at that point, just do like set your tanks up to auto water change.
But the way that we do it at the stores, we have one python that's just like hooked up to the sink, and then we just swap the tips out going tank to tank.
Hmm.
So we just have like a bucket full of potassium permanganate or whatever it is. It's
Mm-hmm.
like purple, and we just stick all the tips in there. We do the same thing with the nets too,
Mm-hmm.
different buckets though.
Yeah,
Stick all the tips in there and just clean one tank, swap the tip, do the next tank.
that sounds really smart.
Yeah, it's pretty efficient, honestly. I think I cleaned like 6 or 8 tanks in an hour once.
We, yeah, they like to keep us pretty bare bones down in the fish room at my work, which is irritating. So when we have to do the water changes around the customers, it makes it so that like you're trying to do, I don't know, 20 tanks or something like that around customers during the day. And um, so I end up when I'm doing it, like if I know the tank is sick, I will like hold the end out of the water if I can in order to fill the tank back up. And then like when I'm draining the tank, I'm taking that end off and like wiping it down really good in between tanks just to try to not spread things around. But yeah, it's like the best I could do. Like I apparently the store that I'm at used to be set up with auto water changes, but then something happened and there was leaks and they could no longer do that anymore because the shop's been there for like 50 years. So I guess things have happened and people haven't been able to move the tanks in order to address the issues that are in between them.
Oh, right.
So yeah, it's yeah, it's fun.
You got the funky stuff going on.
Yeah, we got funky stuff going on. So now we have floor drains underneath 2 of the tank bays. And we have to seat the hose in it and then like block it with rocks because children will come and like kick the hose out of the drain, which you know, as they're walking past, because they just see a hose and they think it's fun to kick things that are on the floor because that's what children do.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have to be like really hyper aware when there's kids in the aisle to make sure that they're not kicking that hose out of the drain, because if we do, then we have to clean up a flood.
Yeah.
So
Uh-oh,
yeah,
Vicky's busting in. What are you doing?
uh-oh,
What are you doing?
she heard me talking about kids.
What? Do you want to see?
Do it.
Still on the show?
Yes.
Would you like a smoothie?
Yeah, I'll have a smoothie.
Okay.
She came in to check on smoothie status. Do I want one? Yes. Oh, she's on it. She's making smoothies, guys. Got to get my
Nice.
kale intake somehow, right?
Yeah. If you don't even have to chew it, that's even better, right?
It is better, technically, yeah. Yeah, I like my smoothie with I like a raspberry blueberry base. Then you add in some avocado. Then you add in some pear. Then you add in some kale and spinach.
Nice.
And you put some honey in there so it doesn't taste like hot death. Because the kale and spinach will, you know, you need to flavor enhance past the kale and spinach. And then you got to grind that up into a fine, fine paste and put it in a glass. It's good stuff.
Does sound pretty good though.
People put peanut
Mine's
butter in it, and I
avocado.
don't understand that.
Back when I used to do smoothies, once upon a time, I used to do peanut butter, a bit of milk, spinach, um, or the like power greens from Costco, whatever those are.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like arugula and some other stuff, and like a scoop of vanilla protein powder.
Right.
And
Hey,
that's it.
wait. You mentioned you were at the dentist earlier. What happened? Did they take all your teeth out?
Yeah, they took them all out and then they put them back in, like the same ones. It was really weird.
That is weird. They just took them out and like changed the oil and put them back in.
Yeah, pretty much. They did, like normal teeth stuff. They
The
just-
rotation. Did they do
Yeah.
the spin balancing on them?
yeah, they had to make sure that the bite was still good and all that other good. No, they just filled in. I just had 2 fillings. And,
Oh man, fillings. Man.
Yeah.
Fillings aren't that bad.
I mean, it's more like when they're injecting the lidocaine.
Does that get you?
It does, because it's like they're jabbing me in the gum with a needle or something. I mean, that's almost like exactly what it is.
Right. Surprisingly enough, that part doesn't really bother me.
Huh.
Although I've only ever gotten like a couple. I think I have 2 fillings, something like that.
Yeah, I am up to, let's see, 5 and a crown at this point.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
When I went through that periodontal disease thing, that was not fun. That's aggressive.
Mhm.
They're like, "Oh, you might have gum disease." Like, what? Oh, we got to do this crazy cleaning in your mouth, and it's going to be a lot, and it's going to be for like hours, and then you have to come back, and we're going to do it again. And we have to only do each part of your mouth in stages. Takes them
Yeah.
like 3 hours to do a quarter of your mouth
Yeah.
or something. I mean, that
Yeah,
was intense.
They did the deep cleaning on me last year,
Hmm.
once, and now I've got. Now I go in every 3 months for a cleaning to make sure things are still going good.
That's good. Yeah, not bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just getting
And
the tires rotated. It's all good, guys. It's all good. No big
Yeah.
deal. No full transmission replacement. None of that.
Yeah. My dentist is always like, you have decalcification on these surfaces and da 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 and whatever, and you grind your teeth. And I'm like, I know. And he's like, you need a night guard. And I was like, I don't grind my teeth at night. I need a driving guard. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I grind my teeth when I'm driving. I go, grr, get out of my way.
You either need a driving mouth guard
Uh-huh.
or a much faster car.
Or just anger management issue, classes or something.
Oh, I suppose. Yeah, that might do it. It might be less invasive and less costly, I think.
Baby.
Although I guess maybe it would be kind of invasive, right? Because they need to get to the root of the problem, right?
Right.
Where is your rage, or where's the origin of your rage? Where's it coming from?
It's coming from that Prius in front of me in the left lane that's going 5 under the speed limit.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I gotta tell you guys a story. Friday night? I think it was Friday night. I don't. Friday night. Yeah. Woke up in the middle of the night, having some kind of weird dream. I don't know what was happening. Some kind of crazy dream. And my arm, like my whole arm was asleep. Has this ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Like it was floppy ass dead asleep. Like I couldn't even pick it up. I had to pick it up with my other arm. And I was like, what is going on? I was just like silently freaking. Like I sat up, silently over there freaking out, like not knowing what's going on with my arm. And then it like slowly started to wake up. And I was like, wiggling my fingers. Like, okay, good. It's not gonna fall off. Like I had to pick it up, and like, oh my god, I think it's dead. I think my arm's dead. I have to go to the hospital and get this thing cut off because it's dead. I don't know what's going on. It was freaking me out. Now I like went back to sleep after it seemingly like was not falling off, which is good. It's an added benefit that my arm did not fall off, right? Added a bit of gratitude, and so then I went back to bed, and then the next morning, like I was like, oh man, something crazy happened with my arm last night, and Vicky was like, yeah, I don't know what you were up doing with your arm. I don't know what you were doing over there with your arm. She was like, I didn't even want to say anything. I was like, you were doing something weird with your arm in the middle of the night. And I was like, it was dead ass asleep, man. I thought it was gonna fall off. Like I had to pick it up. Like, there's my arm. Oh, it's kind of heavy. And then of course, I had to tell her like how heavy my arm was. Hey, these arms is heavy.
Right.
These pythons. But yeah, apparently like me over there silently freaking out. I wasn't silent enough because apparently it woke her up, and she was like, "What is he doing? I don't know what's going on. I'm not jumping in on this one."
Because you're flailing wildly.
It's like, what the hell, man? Who's gonna wake up in the middle of the night because your arm's dead? I don't know. Just failing at being a human. Hey guys, just want to let you know, can't even sleep right.
Right.
I thought that was a normal thing. That happens to me like once a month.
What's that?
Sleeping wrong and then you wake up with a dead arm. It happens to me like once a month. I thought that was like normal.
Is it normal? Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, here's the deal. If we find out that that's normal, yeah, I don't know what to say. Because I've had like my leg was asleep or like my foot was asleep, and you get like the tinglies or whatever, that kind of stuff. This thing was like dead arm. Like I don't understand. It was weird. I've never had it just like floppy ass dead arm. It was weird. I don't know. But maybe it's normal. Is that normal? Does this happen to you guys?
Hello,
I have
Vicky.
had it happen before, yeah.
You've had that happen?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe it is normal. Maybe everyone is having these weird night terrors where the limbs are dead or something. Could be normal.
I think part of it is that when you fall asleep, your body does like it wants to basically paralyze, quote unquote, your limbs, so you're not flailing all around and rolling out of the tree,
Yeah, you don't
when
wanna,
you're asleep.
you don't want to fall out of the top bunk.
Right. Exactly.
Although-
and
My mom did break the news to me. She broke the news to me, guys, that I did constantly fall out of the top bunk. She was like, yeah, you fell out of the top bunk all the time.
oh, did you land on your face or what?
What are you trying to say? You trying to say I got busted face? Is that what's going on?
I'm just thinking maybe your head is heavier than your butt.
It's possible. It's possible. I could have. Hey, massive brain damage. It's a possibility.
Yeah.
Big Dream says, I thought your body was supposed to wake up before the arm goes completely numb. I thought so too. Like I've woken up with the tingly stuff, but man, that thing was like dead. My arm was dead. Luckily, it was the left arm because you're like, well, maybe I don't need that one as much.
It's always my left arm, and I always think I'm having a stroke.
That is a
Oh,
concern.
ooh.
It's like, am I having a stroke or a heart attack? What's going on?
New fear unlocked.
You're welcome.
True. Good point. Great.
Although apparently when women have a heart attack, it's supposed to just come on as being like you're super tired for some reason.
Really?
Uh-huh. It's not the same, like, you can't breathe and your chest hurts and all that other good stuff, like what the men folk experience apparently.
I learned a lot about I learned a lot about chest pain when I had a collapsed lung, a pneumothorax, and so yeah, you go into the hospital, you go into the ER, and you're like, I think I'm having chest pain, and they're like, you're in, get in here right now. Let's go, chief. We don't care who you are, get in here. They don't even take your info. They're like, we'll figure it out later. Get in here right now. It's the express pass. You get that express pass if you have chest pain at the ER, or nowadays it's called the emergency department. Although I always wondered why they're calling it the ED now, because you ever hear ED, you think erectile dysfunction, right? Like you got Viagra in there, or what's going on? Anyhow,
you had a whole department for that now. Holy cow!
Yeah, and it was funny because like I'd asked them later. I was like, "Man, you guys admitted me like super quick," and they're like, "Oh yeah, chest pains. We just don't give a flying hoot. You got to get right in there right away." Because they're like, it's a heart attack, it's a this, it's a that, whatever it is, it's serious. So we just skip all the lines. Get in here. Yeah. Chest pains, not good.
Yeah.
Serious warning sign. The innards are problematic. Aubrey says, I often sit on my feet and forget that when they fall asleep that I can't use them for walking and trip over them. I do that a lot. I don't know if you guys notice. I sit on my feet while I'm on the computer all the time. And then they fall asleep, and then I have to get up and, like, put my feet not under me. And then, yeah, because they fall asleep. You know how it is, right? My God, I'm getting a lot of messages. Sci-Fi Swordsman just commented on a video. I started posting weird little shorts onto YouTube because why not? Because who cares? I have all this like weird crap recorded, and I'm just gonna start putting them up on the shorts, and just because why not? And one of them was the shot of the old panel I took out of the house, electrical panel. And somebody had labeled the pump house the plump house. So we've been calling it the plump house forever. And so we're going to see if it catches on. But they just mentioned, I love myself a plump house. And I'm like, yeah, me too. It's fairly funny. But the pump house, the old pump house, actually, we have an old well back there. We didn't know when we bought the property. That was actually has an old well under it. Except the up in the air plumbing part froze and cracked open, so it's just shut off. But I'm gonna rebuild all of it and turn on that water and see if I can't get well water here.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Which I might get in trouble for that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll claim ignorance. Like I don't know. I just fixed the broken thing, guy. If they try to get me in trouble, I guess. Whoever they are.
Right.
They.
That enigmatic they.
The guys with badges. We don't need no stinking badges.
No badgers here.
No badgers here. So what else is happening? What's new on your guys' front? I feel like when we talk about like other people's fish tanks being effed up, it's like, well, there's these other anonymous people, and I almost feel like I should try to get in with getting some people to call in that are just like they don't know what they're doing, and maybe we could talk to them. But then I don't really want to like make fun of people.
Right.
When there's so many opportunities to make fun of people like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson and stuff, we could just make fun of those idiots.
Right. Like I don't want to badmouth people who are actively seeking actual help and actually want to follow the advice and stuff. I want to make fun of the people who sought my advice, decided that I was dumb, and then decided to go and do their own thing anyway, and then came back to me with like huge issues because their fish were dying.
That's a good point.
Right.
They returned to the
Right.
well
In
of
fact,
information that they refused before.
right. In fact, I think the specific people that I was referring to with their 6 goldfish and a 29, they asked me my advice and then decided that women don't get to have, um, information. And then they sought advice from one of the saltwater guys in my store because he's a guy. And then the guy was like, "Oh, you should talk to her because she knows all the stuff about goldfish." And then they came back to me. And I don't want to just, claim sexism all the time, but it's like every once in a while, it's pretty clear, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like I run into it as a dude sometimes because people, they come to me and they're like, "Hey, I'm having a heavy flow day, right?" And I'm like, "Well, you want to use these?" And they're like, "Yeah, but you're a guy. You don't know what you're talking about." And I was like, "Why are you here in the first place? What's going on?"
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is a weird question to come to a dude for.
It's a weird question to come to a dude for. It's true.
Yeah.
But I have the answers in case you need them, just so you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I feel like it's kind of weird because I think people come into I see people over the years have come into stores, and like when I worked at a reef store, I'd get it all the time. Like, people would come in like, what's wrong with my pallies or whatever, right? You're like, I don't know. Like there was kind of a point where you kind of talk to some people and just be like, I don't know what's wrong with your tank. I have no idea. Like, you need to go and get a foundation of like taking care of it. And then the weird thing is that you'll probably know what's wrong and like what you're doing wrong. And then on the off chance that there's something super weird out there, you would have like a foundation of knowledge and then come in and ask a question that's like, yeah, I bet your magnesium is low. It looks low. It looks low from all of these testing. You need to get that number up. Oh, here's how you could do that, right? Like,
Right.
it's much easier to answer like sort of an advanced question as opposed to the non-existent, non-informational based question, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. To at least just have something to for the person to work with when they trying to diagnose the situation with your tank.
Mm-hmm.
Just something.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's almost 3:00. You know what that means? That means
Time
they're
to
coming up on
run
the.
around like Muppets.
That means they're coming up on the end of the show. So we got to do the hey, become a member, guys. Hey, hit the like button. Hey, replay Team 6. Leave a comment. Whatever. Do all that stuff. Yeah, do all that stuff. We're supposed to do that, right?
Yeah.
Do all that stuff. Gift thousands of memberships. Blah blah blah. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. You got anything to add at the end of the day here? Alyssa?
Watch your fish, and if they're doing something weird, step 1, do a water change.
All right. Steve, famous parting words.
If you're going to go to the store with questions, try Googling them first. And if you can't find the answer, then go to the store with the question.
All right. That's good. That's good. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. I don't know what's going on. People are just not excited about a live stream on a Monday. Pretty chill. But thanks to Steve and Alyssa calling in today. Otherwise, I probably would have fallen asleep streaming or something. I don't know. And we'll be back next week on Monday, and there'll be a video most likely this week about the current fish room build. I believe insulation and something else is on that video. If it gets done, if I got time to edit it, that will be this week. If not, I'll check you guys on Monday, and yeah, that's what's up.
Pink walking.